This is Outnumbered. Hello, everyone. I'm Kaylee McEnany, here with my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Emily Campagno. Also joining us, Shannon Bream and Raymond Arroyo. Members of the president's own party now seem to be turning on him. A new report revealing some 20 Democrats working in both Congress and the White House that are privately complaining to members of the mainstream media, blasting how the president is handling the crises that keep piling up under his watch. One unnamed Democrat lawmaker telling CNN that the Biden administration is rudderless, aimless, and hopeless, while another official within the party suggested that his plans to solve soaring gas prices had the appearance of throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing what sticks. And these are Democrats, keep that in mind. Still others are questioning if the president has the fight in him to lead on key issues concerning Americans. An anonymous Democrat congressman told NBC, quote, "It's almost like he's hiding. He has the bully pulpit, and he's either hiding behind it or under it. I don't know where he is. They can't find the president." At the same time, a top Democrat strategist vented about Biden's team to The Hill, saying this: "It's infuriating. Our house is on fire, and it seems like they're doing nothing to put the fire out. They're just watching it with the rest of us." Meantime, other Democrats are choosing not to remain anonymous as they criticize the president.
There is this sense that things are kind of out of control and he's not in command.
The president of the United States has to organize, and I'm not sure what he's doing. I can tell you what he ain't doing.
So the CNN article, it's based on 24 sources, Harris. The opening is fascinating because it's a window into the Biden administration's priorities. So get this. There's this call Monday. Deborah Messing was fed up. Yes, Deborah Messing in the White House.
Wait a minute. Wasn't she in that movie about the wedding in Ireland? And,
yeah, correct.
Okay.
And also Will and Grace. The former Will and Grace star was among dozens of celebrity Democratic supporters and activists who joined a call with White House aides last Monday to discuss the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. The mood was fatalistic. That afternoon, participants received a follow-up email from the White House with a list of basic talking points and suggestions of Biden's speech clips to put on TikTok. This is what the White House is doing.
Well, no wonder they don't have time to prep the vice president on what she should say about a mass shooting. They're a little preoccupied with how to clean it up for TikTok. Look, you know, the words about this seem, and I want to use the right ones too, desperate. They're desperate. They're out of ideas. They can't make our lives better at this point. And look, Jason Chaffetz said it last hour. No one person may be able to fix inflation, but you got to fall down trying. Like, you've got to give it everything you've got. And messaging for TikTok is messy, too. I mean, what does China own? I don't know if you want to put all of your... Right? I mean, they spy on us on TikTok. I don't think that China should get the talking points before we do. That's all I'm saying. You should concentrate on talking to the people without a little piece of paper. Just look at us and tell us what's going on and how you can make it better.
And I think that's the key point, Shannon. You know, I remember when my former boss, amid a crisis, the murder of George Floyd, brought in families who'd lost their loved ones in an interaction with a police officer and did a listening session. I think the Biden administration could do a listening session with families, with moms who are victims of the formula crisis, those victims of inflation. That would go a long way, better than the celebrity call.
Yeah, the more empathetic touch. But Harris, as you say, let him go out there and message and talk to people, connect. I think this White House is terrified of him doing that, or of him trying to do that. They're always shooing out the press. They're saying, don't go off prompter. I think they're actually worried about setting him free. But remember, during the campaign, he was at home. We didn't see him tested in the same way that many campaigns test people, their ability to think on their feet and to push back. And he did say things during the campaign in tweets and verbally about, when I'm president, the buck will stop with me. I will never do this the way that President Trump did. He says it doesn't stop with him. But when you press them now, press this administration now, they say, well, we're doing everything that we can. And really, the president can't solve all these problems. So either the buck stops with him or it doesn't. But really, this goes back to the campaign and the fact that he wasn't pushed during that campaign. And now it's showing up with, listen, when you're losing Hollywood and the left as this
Deborah Messing, apparently.
You're in trouble. Deborah's mad.
Well, look, he is different than Trump because the gas prices have almost tripled, right? And the border's on fire.
That's right. Emily, he also promised us that on day one, if anyone's cruel to a staffer, you're out the door. Except CNN article based on 24 sources. Here we go. Several officials say Biden's tendencies to berate advisors when he's displeased with how a situation is being handled or when events go off poorly has trickled down the ranks in the West Wing, leaving several mid-level aides feeling blamed for failings despite lacking any real ability to influence the decision. They're saying a lot of those are leaving and citing that reason. The president's, I guess, I don't know, temper, berating, whatever it may be.
And we knew already that he didn't stick to that rule because remember that sort of horrific story and account that came out of the White House about the male staffer's treatment of his then girlfriend at the time, who was also a staffer. Remember that? So that definitely wasn't a you'll be fired immediately upon disrespectful or language. And now he's excusing himself from that standard as well. I think what's interesting about this, just taking a couple steps back, is that we now have then 20 distinct Democrats who have gone to CNN, maybe more who have gone to NBC and CBS, who are complaining about him. The leaks and the stories and the complaints have started getting louder, and it's almost as if now they're saying, okay, we're going to shout. We are going to clang that bell really loudly so that finally that person in the White House can hear that we actually don't think you're fit to serve in the next term, because it started as a whisper. It started as a story here and there.
He
and
whispers.
Now, exactly. And now it's become headlines. And I think it's so funny that you say set him free like he's a parakeet, because he basically is a quite old parakeet there in his cage. But I say
in his cage.
There you go.
By design.
Right. And let me respond as well to the notion that the distinction between your predecessor and Tim, which is one of whose voices matter. We shouldn't be surprised that this White House listens to Deborah Messing, because they did on the campaign trail. They enlisted social media influencers, teens and the like, to do their messaging for them when ordinary Americans' voices are the voices that matter. They just established, remember, a sort of pregnancy council. Yeah. Why don't you just ask moms right here? Why don't you just plug in to the comments that everyone is making on their own Facebooks and their own comments, our show every single day? Because to them, the ordinary American doesn't matter. To them, Deborah Messing matters more than the person who's looking for baby formula. The celebrity's voice matters more than the person who cannot go to work because they can't afford the gas to do so, that worries about inflation. But that's Biden's America.
There's another key point here that we're overlooking. You have all these Democrats, and yes, they're getting loud. But these Democrats complaining about Biden now is a little bit like Putin complaining about the rubble in Ukraine. You caused this. This was your policies that laid out an agenda that Biden has slavishly followed on the border, on gas, on our dealings abroad. He's frozen all these oil and gas leases. We can't even power our own energy. The baby crisis formula, all that was self-imposed by the Biden administration. And these activists, these individuals who so rode him and pushed him into this corner, that's why he's in the low 20s, because that was the only place for him to go to satisfy his base. Now they're complaining. There's only one way to go, guys. It's the other direction.
We have a chart. Let's pull that up, because you mentioned the polling. This is Real Clear Politics showing he's at 38.2% approval. But what's interesting is the trend line. You'll see it down, 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 down. Look at that, Harris. And also interesting to me is Deborah Messing and these others, they're complaining that he hasn't done enough about the Dobbs decision. Well, what's he supposed to do? That's a decision of the Supreme Court. So if you're going to give the guy a break, give him a break for actually following the opinion of the court, which he's supposed to do as the executive.
Well, he came into office thinking that he had a mandate, and at first tried to act like a dictator. And he flipped things that he knew he shouldn't have flipped, like border policies and energy policies and so on and so forth. So they're anticipating him being a dictator. He just said gas companies have to lower their prices, not understanding that the bulk of gas stations are owned by mom and pops, which have like a 2 to 5 cent profit margin. Like, I can't even get my mind around what he thinks a real America looks like. Great point from you, Emily, on that. So they're expecting him to keep his promise of running the country with his vision. He can't run. He can barely walk his messaging. And I don't say that to pick on his physicality. I say that he can't walk, chew gum, do all of these things at the same time, and then turn around and handle a massacre without looking down at a note card. Come on, we're all seeing this now. This is not our imagination. I'm not a doctor. We don't even have to say it's medical. Let's call it incompetence. Let's call it disappointing. There are a lot of words you could call it that don't need a doctor.
There's been a physical decline. I mean, there has been a physical decline. And when some of these activists say, I don't know where he is, well, he doesn't know where he is either, and that's the problem. If you saw that medal ceremony yesterday at the White House, he was completely confused. At one point, he's like, do we go, now do we step down? He couldn't pronounce Vietnam.
Yeah.
This is problematic, and I think the non-political voter looks at this and says, we're out of control. I'm hurting.
Democrats
and he
look
can't
at it
help
and
me.
say
Right.
that.
Well, and they're worried about the internal confusion. Think about the Dobbs decision. The day that was coming out, and I had a tip just a short time before the decision that it was coming, the person in the White House who was supposed to handle the point messaging on that was out getting coffee.
Yeah.
On the day that Dobbs came. That's in this article, too. So it feels like a little internal chaos over there.
You got the tip. They went to go get
And
coffee.
he learned on an alert from his phone.
Right.
That's right.
A Fox News alert, no doubt.
Coming up, Democrats and their hypocrisy.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.